All right, welcome everybody. I am Jamie Cope, Manager of Business Development at the WVU Industrial Extension. And we are here today at the West Virginia Manufacturers Virtual Roundtable for the Northern Panhandle Region. So happy to have Jennifer Rohrig with us as well. Just a real quick background. I saw the list and I think just about everybody's pretty familiar with the Industrial Extension, but just a reminder that our goal is to help manufacturers in West Virginia thrive and grow. And we do that through lots of different kinds of training, whether it's health and safety, management systems, continuous improvement, you name it, we're there to help. And we really like to just position ourselves as problem solvers. So really, I wanted to spend more time talking about with our manufacturers and maybe let Jennifer talk a little bit too. But before we get too far into the weeds, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put those in the chat. And don't be surprised. We got lots of really great manufacturers on this call with us. So I'm going to try to drag some of you guys into the conversation as well. So Jennifer, if you want to talk a little bit about what you do, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Thanks for having me here today. And I think I know most of you, but I am the manager of business retention and expansion in the Northern Panhandle. So I cover Hancock through Tyler counties. And really, I describe my role as that of a concierge. So it's my job to hopefully find the answers to your questions. I tell people I know nothing, but I know the people that do. So I try to find you the subject matter experts or the resources in our area and statewide. So everything from connecting you to the state tax department, local universities and community colleges, workforce training and funding, anything that you might think of. Like I said, it's kind of my job to help you navigate that and to figure it out. So I grew up in Marshall County and I am based out of Ohio County. I'm in Wheeling, so I'm local. And any questions that you have for me, more than happy to help you try to find those answers. Give me a few days and hopefully we can figure it out.
Great. And yeah, and I'll add that Jennifer's been a great partner. I think we complement each other well. Places that sometimes she might have a better relationship than I do, and she'll drag me along to introduce me to folks, and it's always good to work with her like that. So we have a few great events coming up soon too that I should have mentioned. We've got manufacturing days. Lots of activities surrounding that. A great Lean 101 at Pierpont Community and Technical College as well. That's it's a newer program that we've just developed. If you're interested in Lean at all for your organization, it would probably be a good idea to send someone to that one, just to kind of see what it's like. It's one of those things that if you get to do the hands-on part of it, you get it, and then you're like, oh, this would be great for us. Every time I've seen it, you see those light bulbs come on. Manufacturing forum out in the Eastern Panhandle, another roundtable, cybersecurity webinar. So lots of stuff coming up. So if you're interested in any of those things, you can go to wvmep.com and hover over events, just like you did to register for this, and you'll find most of those events are on there. But really, the reason why we wanted to do this was to talk to manufacturers, and Chris at Warwood Tool has graciously agreed to start out in the hot seat for us. So Chris, I think anybody who's followed your social media or anything would probably want to hear more about what goes on there anyway. So if you want to talk a little bit about who you are and what Warwood does, that would be awesome.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So it's funny, a lot of people have no idea who's Warwood Tool, what does Warwood Tool do, but we've actually got some really cool history, and we've been around for a long time. So it started in 1854, and we've been in the same spot in West Virginia since 1904. So we've got an old building, it's historic looking. We've got some truly historic pieces of equipment, all kinds of heavy machinery. So what we do is we forge, we do a lot of, which really it's blacksmithing at the end of the day, and we make tools, all different kinds of industries, but we primarily focus on railroad. So we've got a pretty nice little niche that we're in here where we make special heavy duty tools. They're not really your Home Depot, Lowe's tools. They're, the best word for it is heavy duty. So again, railroad, that's kind of our bread and butter for a long time, for probably 60, 70 years now, we've been making railroad tools. And we started with a couple different cool events. You know, if you think all the way back in history, we had the gold rush. We were building a railroad across the country. And those are kind of two of the big events that helped really start the company, because there was a demand for these metal tools and all these weird shapes to do various tasks that really didn't exist before. So we made all these railroad spiking tools, and it's just been really cool. We've got a lot of history that faded into you know, early 1900s. Then we had World War I, World War II. And so that's when our Trenchmatic came about. And that's probably one of our most historic things that we've ever done. We made thousands of Trenchmatics, which were sent overseas, and they were literally used to dig foxholes and trenches in the war. So that's definitely the most kind of cool piece of history I think that we have in terms of the tools we've made. And then nowadays we're making a lot of different sledgehammers. We're hoping in this next year here, 2023, to get into the axe market. And so we got here, my family purchased the company in 2020. And so Warwood Tool had kind of been around forever. And the problem was, because of our market focusing on, you know, industrial tools rather than consumer tools, we really had no one that knew about us. If you asked someone on the street, they had no idea. A lot of people that we've talked to, even locally, they're like, Warwood Tool down 19th Street? There's no way. Because you look down the road and I mean, it just looks like it's a neighborhood now. But we've got a really cool photo on our website of the facility right on the river when there were like 4 houses. It was just farmland. And so obviously the landscape has changed a lot, and a lot of companies have started to look overseas. They've looked for the cheapest option rather than the best option. And so as a result, there was a pretty good decline in a lot of the customer base that Warwood had from the 60s or so. And that kind of just faded and faded into the 2000s. So we kind of came along. Warwood was in a little bit of a downspout, and we purchased the company, and we've been doing really good. We've tried to bring back a lot of the old tools that no one makes. I mean, it's been many, many years. A lot of the stuff we made maybe in like the 80s, or it was even before then, that we stopped making it. And there's no one in the US that makes some of these tools. So we've got just a really cool market segment. There's not a lot of US manufacturers that do what we do. And we've been around for a long time. So we like to at least think that we know what we're doing pretty well. But that's where you guys have been so helpful, is, you know, you kind of helped us get even more involved and kind of improve our processes, because it's hard when you're an old company and we've got really old equipment and we've got an aging workforce too. And it's hard to find people these days to, you know, fill those roles. But
yeah. So I love the history of the company, and you're inserting yourself in there. So you purchased it in 2020. You want to maybe just talk a little bit about what made it attractive? What made that facility one that you thought you wanted?
Yeah, well, absolutely. You know, it's funny because it probably wouldn't have happened if I wasn't in college at the time. And I had met a guy who made knives, and that was like his hobby. He loved to make knives. And so we went, it was like Christmas time. We went and he showed me how to make knives. And so that kind of like spurred this desire in me. I wanted to get into blacksmithing. I wanted to get into knife making. And so then I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do after college? And at first I thought I was going to start a custom knife business, and very quickly decided that's definitely not what I was going to do. But the point is, I was into blacksmithing. I was familiar with metal, how metal moves, how to make things from metal, and heat treating, all the different processes that we do at Warwood. And so then when we find out that there's a fairly local company that's going to come for sale here just across the border in West Virginia, because I'm from Pittsburgh, so I do live in Pennsylvania, not West Virginia, which is a sad thing, but not a West Virginian, but very close by.
Yeah.
But we found out about it and we just thought, well, that's really cool. That's exactly kind of what I like, what I wanted to get into. And that kind of just where it all started.
Sure. And to get into kind of our history together, I know Jennifer was the one that said, hey, there's a new guy at Warwood Tool. You need to talk to him. He gets it. Right. I mean, and that's right. Always fun. I'm looking at the people who are on the call today, and it's a lot of people who get it, or they wouldn't be here. But so I reached out to you, and as is usually the case, I dangled the carrot of a free energy assessment. Free is easy to sell, right?
Right.
So our group came in, or the Industrial Assessment Center, Dr. Kapala and his team came in and did an energy assessment. anything come from that, or were you able to get some good information out of that, or how'd that go?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good information. You know, at the end of the day, it was not a surprise that he found stuff. I'll put it that way. You know, it's an old facility. We've got old equipment. Everything is just old. So we've been doing our best to replace one thing at a time. And he kind of helped us call certain things to attention and rank them. You know, this is where you would find the biggest savings if you would fix these things. So that was very helpful, just to kind of pinpoint, swap all the lights. I mean, it's little things like that. You think, oh, we got lights, I don't need new lights. But then he puts it on paper how much money you'd save if we switch to all new LED lights. And so, no brainer.
Sure. Okay. Great. And then from there, we've worked together on a few other things. I know our Randy Kowalczyk, who's actually on the call with us, did some work there, doing some job instruction and some work instruction. I believe it was the TWI work instruction, if I saw that right.
Yeah, we've got, I mean, Randy has we have like 4 huge binders now of all these work instructions that Randy put together. And the big goal for us was we wanted to try and get ISO certified. You know, one of the biggest challenges we've had by far is trying to figure out how to get all this organizational knowledge written down and recorded so that we can kind of pass that on. Obviously bringing in new people and have them trained, but that's hard, getting new people these days. So a big important thing was we got to record this stuff. And so Randy came in, he was able to interview all our guys, take photos of the processes, get all the steps written down. So it was awesome. Yeah.
I think people kind of, when everything's running smoothly, you don't think about all of the knowledge that you have that's on the work floor. And then a few folks leave, and then a lot of times those processes leave with them. So yeah, it is important to get that locked in. And you mentioned ISO certification. So it's been a few months ago, right? Not too long ago though. I got a very proud email, or our whole team did, with Mark saying, hey, not only did you get ISO certified, but no non-compliances, right?
Right. Yeah. No non-conformances, nothing. Non-conformances. So it was really awesome. Definitely a big win for us. You know, it's going to give us a lot of new opportunities, and it's something that a lot of manufacturers have and they're very proud of. And so we wanted to join the bandwagon. We wanted to kind of help make a name for ourselves here and put our money where our mouth is. You know, we've said forever, Warwood Tool, you know, best quality USA made hand tools, but you know, we have to back that up. So now we've got history, we've got all kinds of customers who love our stuff, and now we're also ISO certified. So that's really awesome.
No, that's great. And we were talking earlier, and that wasn't even driven by a distributor or as a client. It was your decision to do that. It may open up some doors, of course, and certainly will. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you see the value in that, because that's a lot of times a hard step to make. I mean, if someone's requiring it, people run towards the ISO certification, but without the requirement, the benefits are there. It's just not always as easy to see them. So,
right.
Yeah, and we might as well just round it on out with the mock OSHA inspection that was done recently as well, right? So, yes. The guys came in and went through as if they were OSHA inspectors and got you a full report, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, we want to have a safe workplace. We want to have a fun workplace. And so it's not even that expensive. You have to do it. Everybody should do it. I mean, having you guys come out and just run through the facility, hey, here's a couple things, check these out. I mean, it's really awesome. They put a list together, they took photos of everything, put where it was, and then, I mean, next day we were in there and we're checking off everything on they said, you might want to take a look at this.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And so much better to be proactive on that than reactive, right? I mean, you don't want to have to deal with an accident or injury, heaven forbid, or even an inspection would be can be really detrimental. So to be out in front of that says a lot. So one thing that I know is the hot button discussion right now is workforce. I'm sure everybody here would like to hear a little bit about workforce and you know, what are your challenges? How are you meeting those challenges?
Right. Yeah. So when we got here, obviously we had some issues in general worldwide, right? We got here in 2020, so it's like we have the start of this whole pandemic thing, the COVID's coming around 2020 into 2021, and so nobody wants to work. The people who are coming to work, everybody's like, should you come near me? I don't know. I mean, it's just weird. And so we got here at a weird time, and we had a bare bones crew. We had one guy doing pretty much each task, right? We got to forge tools, we got to heat treat tools, we got to grind tools and paint them. And we've got one guy to do each thing. So we're absolutely running on a bare bones crew. We're worried. I mean, what if this guy gets sick and he can't come to work for a month? Or what if he just wants to, even if somebody wanted to take a week off and go on vacation, even that was a problem for us with the bare bones crew. So, I mean, it was vital immediately to hire new people. And we did everything. We did jobs.com, Monster, Indeed, we did ZipRecruiter, and nothing seemed to work because anybody who would respond would be far away and they wanted to be relocated. And I mean, it was just a disaster. And so after probably 4 or 5 months of looking, we just started doing word of mouth, and we did Facebook. So we went on Facebook and we posted a job app, and we got like 100 people who are all local. They're mostly people who live in Wheeling, some people who live outside in, various suburbs, but pretty much exclusively West Virginia people. And they're like, this is cool. We want to be a part of Warwood Tool. So we probably interviewed, 30, maybe 35 people out of that group. And then I think we've probably hired about a dozen or so of those people now. And so, some worked, some didn't work, but out of that, I think we've got 9 new people. And so we've almost doubled in size in about 2 years now. So, I mean, we've had some pretty good workforce growth. And I mean, it's just essential. We've got so many just tidbits of knowledge that these guys know, and we had no one to pass it on to. So pretty much every single job that we have here at Warwood, we've now hired a second guy to do it, who's a young guy, eager to learn, hardworking, and they're finally able to pass on their knowledge. And it's cool to even see how they react to that, because I think a lot of them probably thought, I'm either going to retire or this place is going to go out of business before I can pass on my knowledge. And so, I mean, it's just been a huge improvement in morale and everybody's mood, just being able to pass on that knowledge. They've worked so hard to, build all these years. We've still got one guy, he's our most tenured guy. He's been at Warwood Tool for 54 years.
Oh my.
And he's still going. He's not sure when he's going to retire, but he's not ready just yet.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, Chris, I'm going to get back to you, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a break. And Jennifer, you have a situation a lot like mine where you're visiting different manufacturers all over the Northern Panhandle. What are you seeing in terms of workforce through the region?
Yeah, I mean, I think Chris really hit the nail on the head there with some of the workforce issues that he's seeing. You can't find people, or the people that you have, show up one day, they show up Monday, by Friday, they're MIA. So I think it's important that companies take the time to kind of document those processes, like Chris said, and preserve those, because we are seeing, the people that are working are kind of on the cusp of retirement, or at least thinking about it, or if they get frustrated because it is a bare bones crew, which is the case in a lot of places. Companies really want to preserve that knowledge. So I think partnering with, the industrial extension is a huge benefit for companies. I think partnering with local universities and community colleges is a huge benefit, because, if we can get people trained and get them invested in their job, hopefully, they'll stay. And Chris is right, word of mouth is huge. You can do all the advertising you want, but if there's a local perception that, it's not a great place to work, or, what have you, word of mouth is really, really hard to overcome. So I would just really encourage companies to take advantage. There are a lot of resources, training dollars through the Governor's Guaranteed Workforce Program, training dollars through grants with the community college. And one thing that I've seen a lot of companies doing lately is, Chris and we were talking about this before we jumped on, but a lot of companies know they need to do things like social media, but they don't have the time or the desire. It's not in their wheelhouse. So we've started to connect companies with some of the local universities and colleges to give students the opportunity, to learn in a real world environment, but also it benefits the company because they've got someone that likes to do it, that's, excited to do it. And it kind of takes the burden off of them when they're managing, 50 other things in the plant or the warehouse or what have you.
Sure. And I see Dan Williams has his camera on, so I'm going to actually drag you in, Dan, if you're all right, to talk a little bit about what are you guys seeing in terms of workforce and how things are going in your world with that. And if you want to give a little elevator pitch about what Marsh is, that would be awesome too.
Sure, not a problem. Dan Williams, Vice President of Marketing and IT. Marsh Frame isn't one company, it's more like 12. We make everything from gas and air regulators, automation components for factories. We have an IoT product that we're in the process of releasing right now, and we also make elastomers, which basically just another word for rubber, and got customers in that end, everything from SpaceX to Tesla to even some military applications. We have about 300 people here in our facility, and yeah, probably hiring is one of our really one of our number one problems right now. And I would say not even from the standpoint of looking for someone in a manufacturing force, but also I was even looking for someone that was I was looking for someone to be my number two there for a little while in the marketing department. And it took probably about 20, I'd say about 20 interviews, and maybe a little more than half of those folks, after they went through our caliper test, went as far as to set up an appointment to come in, just either didn't show or basically would bail out on the in-person interview. So if you guys are, so if you're coming across that, then yeah, please know that you're not alone. We're facing the same thing here. And honestly, we have not, to be completely fair, we have not found what that magic bullet is yet. We're trying to engage more with our workforce and try to make them feel the same sense of like belonging that I do, to make them feel like, okay, you're a valued part here. You're someone that we rely on and that we value your opinion. But of course, that is kind of hard to do. And we do have an aging workforce. We are fortunate that we are an ISO facility. So we have a lot of those processes and test procedures are already documented. So we've kind of got at least a leg up there. But there is no substitute for a guy who has put together a gas regulator, or guy or girl that's put together a gas regulator, 200, 300 times, and knows exactly how many, even though we say, 15 turns on the ratchet until you get to like, X amount of pounds. There's one guy that's just like, well, you need 15.25 turns to actually do that sometimes, depending upon who's running it. So yeah, there's some things that ISO can't capture, because anything that's man-made, there's going to be little variations in it. Sure. But yeah, we're kind of feeling the same thing, and we've changed our tack a little bit as far as like either going out through LinkedIn and soliciting folks directly, or using more social media to get folks to understand more about who we are before they come in the door, because that's something that we experience, I think, similar to Chris there, is that some folks don't know who we are and what we do. Sure.
Well, I saw Doug Krynick nodding in agreement with a lot of those comments. So Doug, you want to talk a little bit about what you do there in Parkersburg? And
absolutely. My business is now 50 years old. Started by my parents, and we manufacture thread for the hobby market and for the fly fishing market. And we've also worked with Game of Thrones in their costuming department, Hocus Pocus #2, the Paris Opera House, so and Kate Spade. So we get around to lots of different industries. During the, I had been doing lots of trade shows, and during COVID, I was stuck in Parkersburg for 2 years and realized that a lot of my operations were out of sync and that my people were suffering from dumbness. I'll put it.
This is being recorded, by the way, but that's all good.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, we redesigned a lot of the systems in our place. We even we had you all come in one time and worked on our lighting, and so we changed our lighting out. We should probably have it done again, where we should have another mock OSHA informative meeting, because I have different people now. During this time, I think almost my whole staff has changed. We had people who dropped out because they were boomers. We had people drop out because they hated me, and they're gone now. And it's good. I have a much nicer culture now. People are friendlier. They're talking to one another. So it's a really nice situation. But I have about 24 employees, and I found it very aggravating over time finding people. I've gone through temp services, and I was going through temp services at the same time I was trying to work with OJT, and OJT had raised their rate. We don't pay the best rates, but OJT had raised their minimum rate from $10 to $13, which I think knocked out a lot of small businesses in my area and probably throughout the state. Well, just last week they went back down to $10 an hour, so that was good. And we started out at $11 an hour, so that was, for us, that was a good thing. But we've had the same thing with ghosting of people. Here's your interview, show up this time, and all of a sudden they don't show up. We've hired people, they don't show up. They come to work and they go to lunch and they don't show back up. So it's a constant battle we're battling. And finally, I think I do have a full shift, 2 shifts. It took me 2.5 years to get a midnight shift going. So we finally have that. So things have gotten better, but there's still, we hire mostly through temp services. And the bad part about that is if we hire them through temp services and we like them, we can't use OJT. So I'm talking to them about that too.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. We've had 3 manufacturers talk, and I've heard the word culture 3 times. I think that says a lot for what's driving this. And Chris and I were talking earlier about how social media was playing such a role in his recruiting, and that's basically because you're dealing with family and friends of people that are already working there, right? So if you've got a good culture and you've got, if you're showing that you're concerned about their safety and those kinds of things, you're more likely to get their friends and family, who are the ones that you want there, right? I mean, hey, let's. Well,
actually, I don't hire family members.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Because I find if I have a disagreement with one, then I might lose 2 people. So, especially a husband and wife who have to be around each other 24 hours a day. We've tried it, and I now will not do that. And then if somebody quits because they go for another job and want their job back, I won't hire them back, because they'll keep looking around. But if somebody quits because they had family problems, I'll hire them back.
Okay.
We had some situations like that recently.
Okay. Interesting. Chris, you want to talk a little bit about the culture there at Warwood? Just what do you think drives it? What are you doing to kind of keep things positive?
Yeah, for sure. I think the problem that was plaguing us is it was just very stagnant. Nothing had changed. I mean, if you had walked into our office, there's photos from the 70s, and not one thing had changed when we got there in 2020. It was identical. And so first thing we did, we redid the break room, we remodeled everything, we redid the office, even just paint on the walls. They're still the walls from the 70s, but we painted them. They're not just that, neutral wood color, just flat wood panels that we had since the 70s. All we did was paint over. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was just getting some change in there. We've swapped a couple different pieces of machinery. We asked the guys, what are your pain points? What sucks? And, they've told us, well, this machine breaks down a lot. This doesn't work. And so we've tried to replace, one thing at a time, but hit all those different things that we really generated just from a list of what are their pain points, what can we do to just swap. A lot of it was little things, but I definitely say communication. That's probably the biggest thing. Is, you know, that's where we learned what are the pain points. We learned that through communication, and we've been trying to have daily, weekly, monthly meetings with everybody as a group so that we can just talk, make sure they know what we're doing up in the office. You know, we're not different company, we're not enemies, we all want to be friends, we're a team. And so we've just been trying to include everybody, let them know what our plans are in terms of, you know, hey, here's the new products we're bringing. We've done a couple cool collaborations, trying to do some auctions and just generate interest in our company and the things that we can do. And so we've been trying to include everybody, get their thoughts, you know, what would be a cool auction item? What would be a cool one-off thing we could do? And then we bring them in early, let them see it, play with it before we ever announce it, and kind of show it off to the world.
Very cool. Very cool. So one of the things that Jennifer and I both push pretty hard whenever we're talking with manufacturers is the governor's guaranteed workforce. And I see that David Rogers is here with us. And David, if you wanted to give an elevator pitch for governor's guaranteed workforce, that would be awesome.
Sure, be happy to, Jamie. Just in a nutshell, governor's guaranteed is the state's way of helping cut the costs of training for employers. But we try to make it as cost efficient and easy for employers as possible. I was just looking back over our database. You know, we've worked with just about everybody, you know, that's talked on this call at some point. Had 4 different years with Warwood Tool, for example, and a lot of that training expense, whether it be with a community and technical college or a CTE, or even just using your own employees' time to help train another employee, like Chris was talking about. You know, we can help defray some of the expense of paying for that person's time that you have to maybe pull out of production to help train another employee. So the program is it's relatively simple to apply for. You know, it's got a couple of hard and fast rules. We can pay generally 50% of the training expense up to a maximum of $2,000 per employee. And it's a rolling deadline. And you know, you can apply year after year if you need the help. You know, we're happy to work with companies to help them train up their employees, whether it's onboarding new people or working with existing employees. And you know, we're happy to if a company would come to us and ask about training, we will refer them to people that we know that do training in that area. We don't, you know, make specific recommendations about one over another, but we'll definitely tell them about, you know, the manufacturing extension program or the CTC, whatever would be the best fit and close for them.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. Let's see. So Chris, you had mentioned some new products that you guys are developing, and I have to admit that I was totally ignorant to the fact that there were tool collectors out there. I mean, I know there's lots of people who have garages full of tools, but those aren't what we're talking about. So you want to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing, maybe some new equipment, some new things that you're working on, new products?
Sure. Yeah. So, you know, I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. You know, I mentioned facilities super old, our equipment super old. So one of the things we're trying to do is figure out what would it cost if we tried to put a new line in. And so the new line then would give us all kinds of just new capabilities. That would be the goal. You know, there's a lot of different markets that we make tools for, but we don't make a lot of tools for in that market. So we're trying to see, can we get, you know, maybe put a new product line in, and then we can have all these new, you know, opportunities and doors open. There's things that we even have. We've gone to companies that have shut down. They used to make tools, and we bought their whole product line, but we don't have, you know, we're not making any of the tools. We've got all the equipment to do it, but we're not making it. So we're just trying to bring in a couple new products. We're trying to hit the wildland firefighter market and then expand that into firefighting and first responders, do some police officer and law enforcement tools. And then we want to get into direct to consumer. That's been my big push, Warwood Tool has had a website for a while, but we never had any sort of store. So in 2021, I launched an e-commerce store on our website where you can get, most of our tools, but only so many people want to go online and buy a railroad spike puller or a claw bar. The tools just aren't things that consumers want. And so I've just thought, what would be a good thing we could launch that anybody could buy? What would be a good gift? What would be something you could get for someone you don't know what to get them? And that's when I thought, well, get the wheels turning, axes. And so that's kind of where we landed on the goal for 2023 is bring out some axes, release some new products, and that'll really open up a direct-to-consumer line that we've never had before. So we're going to try to hit Amazon. We're going to try to hit a couple different, different points. Whereas historically, we've just always sold through distributors to really big industrial users. So just be a whole different market for us, but we're trying to expand.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that. And we got a question there from Doug about Governor's Guaranteed Workforce. And I think there's maybe some overlap with maybe an apprenticeship program or something. Jennifer, do you want to talk to that, or would David want to speak to that?
Yeah, since you've got, Dave, if you don't mind, since you're on, I'll refer to the expert there.
I don't know if I'd say the expert, but Governor's Guaranteed Workforce is really involved with developing the economy and promoting the way that companies can grow and become more profitable and productive. We don't really work with hiring through a temp service. It needs to be a W-2 employee. So we can assist with paying the training costs of an apprenticeship, both through a current Federal Department of Labor grant and with the Governor's Guaranteed program. So if you hire a person as an apprentice and want to train them that way, that would be something we could fund. And also if you work through an apprenticeship and for some reason they don't meet the standards that you've laid out for them, then you can exit them from that program.
Sure. Thank you, David. So whenever Randy Kowalczyk comes to your facility to help you with some continuous improvement training, that'll qualify for the Governor's Guaranteed Workforce. So just a little plug there for you, Randy. So we're kind of winding down. So yeah, continue to put questions in the chat, but the other hot button issue, I guess, we've got workforce, and the other one is supply chain. So Chris, have you seen any challenges supply chain wise? And if so, what are you trying to do about it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been crazy. So, I mean, I imagine probably everyone's heard about the, crazy prices in steel. And at the end of the day, we don't make there's really nothing we make that isn't made from steel. So, I mean, it hit hard. A lot of our steel costs, if they were 60 cents, they were at least doubled. We had a couple different pieces of material that have tripled in their cost. And then, the other thing we make our tools out of is not all of them, but a lot of them have wooden handles. And so then we had a whole issue with wood. And so we had the really only two materials that we need to make our stuff have all these crazy price hikes. And now we've got inflation where not just that, but now packaging, paint, everything, our grinding belts, everything costs more. And so, I mean, we thought we'll try to weather the storm and not do a price increase, but it's just impossible. I mean, steel alone, we've had probably a dozen price increases in 12 months. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. It's like every other day there's emails, different vendors, price increase, price increase, price increase, price increase. And I mean, you can only do so much, we try so hard. Everything we buy is all USA sourced, but I mean, what do you do?
Sure.
You kind of have to deal with it. So we're just absorb what we can. And if we can't, we've been having to have price increases. So it's tough.
Yeah. And Doug, I know I was at your shop and you were talking about reducing the colors that you guys are making and things like that. So that was supply chain related, correct?
That was partially it. We're still 17 weeks behind. And so that's one problem, but shipping has been increasing. all the time. And the price of the spools went from 3.5 cents to 13.
Wow.
So I had to raise my prices, and then I had to raise my prices again. And my thing is, after so many price increases, that restricts people from buying it, because price still, we're going up. But we ship things in from Europe, and we ship things in from Japan. And at one point, we were having a company up in Cleveland making our spools, and I found out that 10 years prior to that, they had shifted my mold over to China. So when I needed spools in an emergency, I had to fly them from China, and it was $2,000 every shipment.
Wow.
And so it was crazy. Now we're now using a company in Cambridge, Ohio, to do our spools, and if I need them, I can drive up there.
Okay. And Dan, there at Marsh, I guess 12 different companies means 12 different supply chain headaches. Is that accurate?
Pretty much. I mean, we've, of course, like others here, pretty much we've this year alone, we have had to raise prices twice. The second one we've been holding on and really trying, but the second one we had to do a double-digit increase because we've basically, like Chris, the price of steel, price of iron, and also shipping that in, because we have multiple supply lines that are coming in from everywhere, some from Asia, some from India, some from South America and whatnot. But really most of the folks have been pretty accepting and understanding of the situation. I mean, we're kind of fortunate there. The other part of it is that because of these delays in the shipments and whatnot, these things getting to us, our lead times in some instances, and this is both a problem in the amount of orders that we have and the lead time for some of these things, but on some of our orders now, we're booked out until March of next year at this point right now. And that's good problem, bad problem. Because, basically you like to have a little bit of a backlog on your slate there, because you can plan labor accordingly, but it gets to be a real headache whenever your lead time gets that long. And of course, you're going to have that customer that absolutely positively needs it in like 3 to 4 days. And we try to make accommodations, but we basically say, look, if we say yes to you, then we're saying no to probably about 60, 70 other people. So, manage your expectations, basically, is how we're putting it.
Great.
But yeah, similar actions here.
Okay. Well, great. As we're winding down, Jennifer, do you have anything you'd like to add for the good of the cause?
No, it's just great to see everybody, and I hope that you continue to use me and to use the Department of Economic Development as a resource. Again, whether it's something that we do, or maybe something that you don't know the answer to, let us try to help you. And I'd say the other thing is to not get discouraged. We try to plug in a lot of different solutions, and maybe, the first two don't work, but the third one does. So I would say just hang in there and, keep trying the different resources that we have. West Virginia has a lot of resources, and I'm really proud to be able to share those with companies. So definitely let, me and the team that I work with help you.
Great. Thanks. And Chris, was there anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to today?
No, I don't think so. Thank you guys for having me. I'm glad I could share a little bit about Warwood.
Yeah, no, we're so happy that you were able to join us today. And this has been great. Appreciate everybody who came out and was on the call. And, always a pleasure to work with Jennifer whenever we get the opportunity. You've got our contact information there if you don't have it already. But yeah, so thanks, Chris, and all the others that chimed in with some help. And don't forget that we have some other opportunities coming up soon. If you go to our events page, those will be updated regularly. So don't feel free to crash any of those that you want. I know my geography is not as bad as it may sound. That we've got Doug from Wood County on a Northern Panhandle, but that region's without a rep right now, so we thought we'd expand a little bit. But no reason why a manufacturer that's on here now couldn't jump on the North Central Roundtable as well there on October 26th. So All right, with that being said, I just again want to thank everybody for coming, and you'll be getting a recording of this if you signed up. So hopefully we'll get together and see each other again real soon. So thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Jamie.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
You guys, take care.
Thanks, everybody.